Good afternoon and welcome back to Planner Craft. I'm Natalie and I'm going to be taking you through a couple of quick and easy watercolour ideas that you can do. So before I go too far, good afternoon. I'd already muted that once.
Possibly not. You put it on for Pete, didn't you?
And I thought I muted it again before I went for lunch. Oh well. Anyway, so I'm using the Graphitint palette. And as with any palette when we get it for the first time, I always advise you to do a quick little palette so you can see how your colours actually come out on your paper. Now the paper I'm using today is slightly different from the one I have on my palette, so bear this in mind when I'm making colour choices. So I'm using a slightly higher white than previous.
And Carol, say afternoon. And
good afternoon.
I'm here doing comments just in case anybody wondered.
Yep. Any questions at any point?
Yeah, I am lingering in the background.
So I have a small stash of paintbrushes that I'm going to talk to you about today. So the first one is a water brush. So if you're a beginner, you may find that this is a good way for you to go. No risk of spilling water, nice and easy to clean your brush. So it's a good place to get started. And you do get one in the Derwent palettes. A good all-round brush, you'll see I use this one a lot, is my number 10 round brush. So this one's from Pan Art, but you can go with any make. It's the shape that's important and the material. Okay, I have a couple of multimedia brushes in my collection and these are a bit stiffer. So they're not really ideal for doing traditional watercolour painting, but I'm going to show you some unusual uses for those in a bit. I have some Davenport brushes, so usually I'd be tending to use these more with watercolour pastels or acrylics. I have a couple of craft brushes, so these are actually tending more towards the watercolour side than the acrylics for a change for a craft brush. So we have a long very thin one known as a rigger. And we also have a lovely fill butt brush, which is this lovely rounded shape here.
I have your mum and Tracy.
Hello, hello. And just before I go, just because mum's just come on, I'm also going to be using my Stamps by Me Posh palette. So thank you, mum. This was one of my birthday presents and it hasn't managed to make it onto a stream yet, so here we go.
Also, I'm going to put a code up in the chat that if anybody would like the Derwent pan sets, there is a 20% discount and free shipping code that we were given to be able to let people use. So if you do want to have a look at the Derwent pan sets, then there's a discount going up. Yes,
and there's a very nice brand new metallic one as well. I haven't got it personally yet. Keywords there, the yet. You never know. Okay, so for this first card we're going to need a rectangular piece of watercolour card. So you saw Ian cut this on stream earlier. And added to that I'm going to use a French curve, but you could also use an old CD that you don't want, a normal half protractor or a full one. So first of all you want to decide roughly where your horizon line is going to go. So if you wanted to, you could do this technique all the way up and do it in different shades of green, all the way up and have no sky. But for this one, for me, I'm going to put just a hint of a sky just up in this top edge here. So I'm going to go in my French curve and I'm going to use it looks like it's almost straight, but it's really not. So I'm just going to go along this long edge here. And this is just one way that you can use French curves. There's lots and lots of tricks you can do with these. Okay, so that's the first kind of mark to put in. Now, as we move down our page, our lines are going to get further and further apart because the landscape's coming towards us. So I'm going to just give my French curve a twist or you can move to a different part of the curve for each section. The choice is yours, but you want to keep these first few lines very close together. And they don't have to go all the way across, so if you come up to another line you can just stop there. And you can even use an inside edge of a curve just so you kind of get a bit of undulation in your land. So I'm just going to use the first part there, so I'm coming halfway kind of around the curve, and then I can flip it over and finish off that line, so we get like a little bit of a swoosh to our line. Now as we got this join here, I'm going to just pop in a little bit of a line there. Okay, and just because we've got that join there, I'm going to do the same here. Okay. Now as we're coming slightly further forward, I'm going to change my French curve angle again. And you can see that slowly my lines are starting to become wider and wider. So I'm just going to flip again. And let's get that bit in there. So although this bit's going to kink a bit, I don't mind, because it's going to come round in front. Now as we're starting to move into our mid-ground, we don't want our horizontal lines to actually touch at either end.
So just a note for anybody who hasn't purchased Affinity yet, or any of the Affinity products that they're 50% off, that may like to, just be aware the discount ends on the 20th of June. So you can still get your 90-day free trial up to and including the 20th of June, but it all finishes on the 20th of June. So if you do want to get 50% discount off any of the Affinity products, then do so before the 20th of June.
Let me guess, that's just come up and reminded you. Okay, so now we're really coming down to our foreground, so there's probably only another couple of lines to do. And just to help you out a bit as you're beginner, I wouldn't put any more lines kind of dividing fields this close to you. Okay, so hopefully you'll have your lines in front of you that we can start to paint now. So I'm going to use my good old faithful for this, so I'm just going to wet my brush, and I'm just going to start by wetting the first section of my paper.
And Debbie's just joined us as well.
Good afternoon, Debbie. Doesn't matter if you go over your line at this point, this is why you do it in blue.
Question from Tracy. Says, I'm glad I got mine with a designer. Do you think it's worth getting the photo and publisher as well?
Photo is good, as you have some commands in there that you don't necessarily have with designer. Publisher is only really good if you do a lot of like page layout applications, so you're thinking things like leaflets, booklets. So if you were doing a lot of wedding invitations, for example, then it may be worth it. So I'm just going in with a nice light green. And if you're finding it's getting a bit streaky, don't panic, especially in this weather as it's a bit warm. Just add a bit more water and it will reactivate. So if you need to do like order the surfaces, just going to add in a bit of russet into that as well. So that's like the equivalent version of like a orangey colour, just to give us some difference in our tonality. And you do want to keep the warmer colours towards the front. And you can see I'm not worrying too much about where my original line is. That's more important for the next bit. So I'm just going to pick up a bit of that colour with a bit more water and add it to my palette, just so I can make it a little bit better and a bit greener, just to do a bit of a ombre effect coming back into this section of the field. Okay, and you'll see with this particular technique I'm not worrying too much about the joins. So if you were doing something else like a flower or something that has very definitive lines, you'd have to be going to like every other section. But for this I don't mind if it bleeds in a bit. So I'm just wetting the area. Gonna get some more of my meadow and pop that into there. And now, because we're kind of approaching our mid-ground, I'm going to put in a little bit of the green grey. So we're starting to cool down the palette a little.
Natalie, you said you had some stuff that you stocked the other day. Does that mean you guys sell things as well?
We used to.
We still have a few bits, don't we? But
yeah, we have a few bits, but we tend to stick to doing our Amazon store at the moment. We only really sell stuff when we're like face to face, don't we?
yeah.
As Jackie or Pauline, if she was watching, would say, we have kind of a mobile shop, don't we? Bit like the Milkman, but we bring craft stuff instead. So I'm just going to add in a bit more water, and this time I'm going to go to the slate green, which is like a proper blue green. So if I put a bit there so you can see it.
Yes, we are using the water. It's the same watercolour paper that I cut this morning, if you saw this morning's feed. If not, it's a 280 GSM watercolour card from
Hobby Art.
Hobby Art, there we go.
So I'm just taking it up to the line. So, the one thing you don't want is any white spaces, because you might see when you come back and do the next piece. Okay, so we're going back again. So we're going to add a bit more water, a bit of a greeny colour, and a bit more of our slate green. So if that's looking a bit too dark, add a touch more water. So basically, as we go further back, your colours are going to get lighter and bluer. Now, just because I need a bit of variation to this tone, I'm going to pick up the tiniest amount of meadow. I'm going to pop it right down by a line. Go back into our white colour and we're going to blend that out. Just gives us a bit of definition between these two fields.
Thank you, Debbie.
What's that?
Yes, you did say earlier. Good job. Linking in for the mats. Yes.
Okay, so this next one back, I'm going to go even bluer with ocean blue. And pick up a bit of our green. So the whole point is we're kind of using our base colours each time so that it looks like things are receding rather than starting a brand new colour. And if you start to find it's getting too blue, that's fine, we can always add a little bit of the meadow. So, just going to dip back into that meadow for this section here so we get some definition that there's a change. And we can just brush that out. And we want a bit more water. And go each time a bit more pale. So I've brushed across 2 fields there. So I'm just going to pick up a little bit of colour just to differentiate again. So we can still put in a little bit of the meadow, but it's only very watery and very faint. How are you all doing? So again, I'm going to go into the meadow.
We have Julie and Susan who've joined us as well.
Just going to go across there. And I'm just going to make this feel a bit muddy in the distance, I think. So pick up a little bit of the russet, just drop it in there.
She says it looks like the countryside already. I've forgotten it looks like from that long ago.
I don't know, if you look out of our window, you can kind of see where I'm coming from. Okay. So I'm just going to tidy up just there.
You have to let me know if you need the code as well, Tracy, for the discount.
And a bit more from our darker green. And finally, just going to add a touch of that ocean blue. It's literally a touch. Okay. So now before we go too far, we can dry that. So use a hairdryer or something that's not going to be too hot. So don't go using your embossing heat gun unless it's a dual one like mine. I'm going to use the next part of my palette. I'm going to be working with some darker greens to kind of do some silhouettes of some trees. So the rule here is don't panic. So don't think, oh I've got to draw this perfect representation of a tree. No. The idea of this is we're looking into the distance. So kind of giving a hint of things is better than trying to draw it perfectly. So hence it's a nice one for a beginner. Okay.
Tracy, I've just sent you the discount code as a private message.
give my brush a good clean. I'm going to use the sponge that's in my palette just to make sure I've got all the colour out. You could use a bamboo sheet if your palette doesn't have a sponge. Okay, and pick up some fresh water. And I'm going to mix a bit of steel blue, which so far we haven't used yet, which is like a nice dark stormy grey colour. You can make a really dramatic sky with it. Okay. And we're going to then add to that a bit of the meadow, just so it looks more tree-like at the front. Okay, so we're going to just do a little suggestion, and all I'm doing is just tapping the brush almost and just kind of flicking it to suggest that we've got a hedge, and then every so often we might put a little tree and carry it on. So you can see I'm not even worrying about, you know, how that tree joins the land. It's not what it's about. You're just doing a little hedgerow. Okay. Now if you're finding as you're doing this and the colours are drying that it's a bit too pale, we can always come back and we can add some shadow to that to make it deeper. But for now, just move on to the next bit and so on and so forth. So I'm going to add a bit more of the steel blue. And it is only a touch more.
It's very lovely and therapeutic on this sticky hot day.
Yeah. But it's nice to think that, you know, you can escape outdoors even if you actually can't just yet.
Might be open that window now, it's going down there.
Yeah. So, you notice that if you look at the height of my hedges from there to there, they're getting a little bit narrower. And we can start to concentrate more on when we add trees. So we have a join of a field here, so I think that'd be a really good place to put a nice big tree. Always handy to attach fences to. And if you're feeling really brave, you can try and draw a fence. But I have to say, hedges are much more easy to paint. So I'm just giving a little wiggle to get our hedge between our two fields there. Now we're stepping back again. So we're going to add a bit more of our steel blue. And at this point, a tiny touch of water.
Tracy, how was your escape the other day? Did you enjoy being out of the home for a while?
Yeah, I was absolutely worn out though.
Yeah, we ended up spending an hour walking around the woods, didn't we?
We did. So, as we get further back, even our trees are going to go so that they're smaller. So I'm just going to add a bit more of the steel blue. So if you did accidentally have any white lines, this is kind of the point that you can go over the top of them and pretend that they're not there. So I'm just going to add a little tree just there. You can also start to miss out little bits of hedge to suggest that the fields are kind of rolling back away from you. Going to put a little tree there.
Tracy, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah. It's nice seeing all the pretty flowers. I'm just going to start to build a bit more just there. And you can even put a tree that's going off the edge of your piece of paper. And a bit more of our grey colour and spot more water. I'm just doing little drops of paint. Now, with our hedges that are kind of going this way, remember over here should be narrower than when it's getting towards us. So if you want to make it look a bit more realistic, you can kind of add a bit of depth to that section there. Now at this point you may find that your brush is actually getting too big, so this is a good occasion to break out your rigger.
Tracy's asked, do you ever press flowers and use them on cards or in your art in some way?
I prefer to draw and paint them, to be honest.
And neither has joined us.
My cousin likes to press flowers. And as far as I know, she does that to use them in her artwork.
Which one?
Becky.
Oh, Becky.
Yeah, I don't think Beth or Olivia or Millie are. I may be wrong. So you can see now, as we head further back, we're getting paler with our edges. And you're only going to get very tiny differences for trees and things at this distance. And it's when you do exercises like this that you can really see the difference between your brush types as to what they can and can't do. It's also good painting to do if you're a natural handshaker like me, because it doesn't rely on you being able to draw a nice straight line. And just to finish it off so it doesn't look too weird, I'm going to put a little bit of that same colour along our horizon line. And there we go. So hopefully you've got a nice countryside in front of you now. So with your rigger brush, you don't really want to scrub at any point. You're just going to gently roll it along your sponge. If ever you do need to clean any of your brushes, the best thing you can use, as far as I'm concerned anyway, is a bit of baby shampoo.
You can get that seagulls you can hear, yeah.
Yeah, anywhere you think we live on the coast.
Could be further from the coast if we try.
Okay, so I'm going to go back to my number 10. And I'm going to flip round to the last bit of my palette and put in plenty of water because I want to mix nice blue. So I'm going to go back to my little swatch card and I think I might go dark indigo, which probably sounds like, oh my, It's going to be way too dark. But the trick is the amount of water that you put in. Okay, so I'm just going to get as much paint out of my brush as possible before going back into my water. And I'm just going to wet the area. Now you can leave a little halo just above your ground. As long as you can see a nice all over sheen to your paper, I'm ready to go. So I'm just going to dip my brush into a little more water and go straight in with a nice tint of the dark indigo. So you can see it really is just a case of how much water you put in. So a bit more. So this could definitely be a stormy sky if I left it like that. So back in with the water. That would have been good for yesterday. When I came out and looked out the window and all I could see was purple sky. Quite freaky. So now with our darker colour we're just going to put in the suggestion of clouds. Now you're always going to want to get lighter down towards your horizon line. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to go back up to the top again. So same paint, I haven't put anything extra in it.
Aww.
And
Sarah Lou says hello, storm has finally gone but due to make another appearance later. The poor dogs are petrified.
aww.
And Tracy says, can you ever put too much water on?
Eventually if you were like scrubbing at it your paper will pill, but as long as it's good quality watercolour paper or board it should take a certain amount before it does that. Okay, and obviously some will take more than others.
It depends on thickness as well, I suppose. 'Cause it's
Yeah. So I'm going to go with just a touch of the really, really dark indigo, just to kind of finishing off the scene. And as long as it's nice and wet, it'll all blend in. There we go. Let's give it a quick waft with a heat gun. Any questions? Now would be a good time. Whoops.
nothing yet.
Okay.
I'll tell you if there is.
What I'm going to do with my little rigger is I'm just going to go back to my dark green and look at this dark indigo colour. Maybe take a little bit of that neat as well. There we go. And I'm just going to go back in just at the base, at the front of these edges. Let's get a little bit more of that kind of dark section of colour. There we go. So I'm going to go back to my green grey as well. Just pick a bit more of that up. What I do like about these palettes is you never waste anything. You can always reactivate it and go back. And I think with that one I'm happy. On 2:05. I can see me ending up even one of these till tomorrow to do. Finish off the multi-piece one.
You can do that tomorrow afternoon?
Yeah.
Or in the morning, depending on what you're on. We're going to throw at people tomorrow?
So, I'd usually say wait until your paper is totally dry, but I only put a little bit on the edges so it won't hurt too much peeling this off now. Okay. And there you go.
Those ain't looking so lovely.
So, if you wanted to, you could leave it like that, but my plan was that I was actually going to cut round inside so we actually have edge to edge colour. Then we can mount it up. So perhaps we can finish that one off tomorrow. So you can see that done in the final card. Next. Okay. Actually, before I do that one, I'm going to do the other one. Just because. Good warm up. So because I'm not going edge to edge, I don't need to necessarily tape this one, plus I want to be able to kind of turn my work with me for this next technique. So I'm going to use my mixed media brush, I think. If I am, I think. If I can make it not splay too much, but we'll see how we go. So I'm going to give it a good shape. So this is where you've got to not mind getting your fingers wet.
Dave said she makes a lot of bookmarks, so that would look great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It's a great bookmark design, that.
Punch a hole in the top, put a tassel on it, job done.
Laminate it. Don't forget to laminate it, else it will bit of watercolour it still needs that kind of seal over the top of it in case somebody does spill their tea.
Or clear vinyl.
Okay, so nicely shaped brush.
Could you clear vinyl it? If you didn't have laminated.
Yep. Yep, you can clear vinyl it. I'm going to go back into my meadow and mix two good sections of colour here. So the brush I'm using is number 12 angular brush. Next I'm going into the green grey. I'm picking some of that up and I'm going to mix it over on this side.
There we are. Could you Mod Podge over the top of it to protect it?
Yeah, or you could use a Versamark pad very gently over the top. Very gently.
That varnish you had the other day that you did on your...
Spray varnish would be good.
That you did on your box, you know.
That might pull it a bit.
Alright, okay.
So, if you've got like a spray sealer, that'd be good. So, I'm just going to shape my brush. I'm going to load it up with some green. I'm going to dip it into the dark green. Okay, it's separating a little bit. I'll see how it goes, how it's going to behave. So, just because I'm going to test it out over here. It's not too bad. It's because it's splitting a bit. Let's see if we can get it a bit wetter. More green.
That's a great, thank you.
Okay. I'm just going to. You just want to be careful when it gets to the tip of your leaf that you do get to. But you can always come back and kind of finish that off. A bit more. Now, you're never going to get as accurate a wreath as if you were designing in like Affinity, because we are not computers. But don't worry about that, because we can always sort that out after.
And surely that just makes it more unique because it's made individually rather than.
Very much so. So, poor little brush. If you do find that your brushes start to lose their shape, it's a good time to attack them with a bit of baby shampoo and shape them well before they dry. And the other thing to bear in mind is you don't have to do the entire circle the same way if you don't want to. So, I'm going to come in with my round brush. And let's go for something a bit different rather than greens and blues. Let's attack the autumn brown, which is this palette's version of red. So it's got nice. Indeed, this palette is great for doing not just landscapes but floors as well. And I'm not concentrating on doing perfect renditions of flowers, so I'm going to be a bit more stylised than that. So I'm just going to add a bit more water because it's been a bit too dry to move. There we go. So all the work I'm doing is in the pressure on the brush. I'm just going to put another little petal just there. And then around here we might decide that instead we're going to do some berries. So I'm just going to fill those in. And I'm not worried about the depth to them at this point. So if I just get like a base coat in, quite happy with that. And we can even put a few of the berries around the wreath. Now, because we've got this flower here, I'm going to go in with a different style of leaf. So I'm just going to pick up some of our pale green colour. And I'm just going to kind of tap the brush so that we get like a serrated edge. And then we can just drag it back. Okay. At this point we can pick up some of our green colour and we can just drop it in.
Could have made a rotary mat so you can
Yep.
stick it down.
If you really want to have an easy time doing this, one of the best things you can kind of invest in is actually a tilted table. So whether that's a tray or a table easel. It just really helps that if you have a slight tilt on your card, it will help with your blending, especially when you're doing skies and things. So. I don't, because of getting the camera angle.
You can probably set that up there. Just remove the camera.
Okay, so there we go. And I think just to finish off, I'm going to go for some little flicks of that dark indigo. Almost bordering on the aubergine, actually, looking at my little colour chart. So the aubergine is actually slightly darker. So just to save my rigger having to do the mixing hard work, we can let our round brush do the heavy lifting. So I'm going to pick up some of the dark indigo, like so, and I'm also going to get some of the aubergine. Is that what I think it is? Or not?
It's very hard to tell.
If we do suddenly disappear, certainly sounds like it's rumbling around. So I'm just going to soak my rigger in the nice wet paint, and I'm just going to flick.
Don't be saying the kids have bought their dad a laptop tilt tray table for Father's Day at the weekend, and it would be perfect. I might pinch it.
Okay.
Yeah, you have an adjustable one, don't you?
Yes. Courtesy of Argos, wasn't it? Got it in the
Was
end.
that an Argos one in the end, was it?
It was an Argos one. It's probably one of the.
A few things that have fallen apart on it.
Yeah. Okay. So you can see now why I say, you're going to move this one around a lot just to get your angle right for how you want to flick it. More of that kind of indigo in there. It's getting a bit pale. I don't want it too pale and washed out for this bit. Okay. So a bit more. And now with these, I'm just going to give these berries here lip with a kind of stem just to finish it off. And that's 3 flicks.
Is that so you coming up with this design as you go, Natalie, or is this what you had in mind to start with?
It's roughly what I had in mind to start with. But sometimes you do adapt on the fly. If a brush stroke doesn't go exactly where you want it to, sometimes you can see it changes to something else, or you go, oh, that looks like X, Y, Z, and you change direction. So I'm just going to put a few more of these twiggy bits out this way. And when you push against the grain of the paper, your brush will kind of skip anyway, so it's good for doing twigs and things. And it still looks like it needs something to kind of fill in this white area here and here. So you can do something really precise, or you can go a bit more abstract. So I think I'm just going to kind of go really abstract and pale.
This is beautiful and very calming to watch you paint.
Thank you. So I'm just going to put in just the suggestion of a couple of flowers behind it. Now if you wanted to, you could do like a stem design around here, so you kind of reach up and finish it. Or you can just stop there and then put another design that's kind of 3D'd up on top, and we can kind of punch out this aperture here. So I think that's what I'm going to do with that one. Next. Okay. Oh, excuse me. So let's try these, and we'll go a bit bigger, a bit bolder.
I can't tell people which ones you're using.
Okay, so this is Jane Davenport brush. Can't really give you a size because it doesn't have them on it, I don't think, anywhere. But it's kind of, in the pack of 3, it's the smallest one. So this one takes quite a bit of water though, to kind of get it to a point where it's happy to paint. Okay. So again, we can kind of start in the centre, and we can kind of build up. And leave white areas to suggest kind of the highlights on petals. And note again, I'm keeping it quite light and loose, and we can always go back and add some shadows and things after. So I'm just keeping a few white areas, and then...
Belinda says that was really beautiful, and that. And she says it's a mermaid brush. Lol.
It is a mermaid brush. It's a very beautiful lip brush. I didn't use them for ages, I just looked at them and thought, oh, they're too nice. Okay, so I'm going to go back into my autumn brown, and I want to kind of get a darker mix of that, and then I'm going to go in here, and then just because I can, I'm going to soften it with a water brush. So water brushes are handy for kind of doing things on the fly, shall I say. So if you want to blend, even felt tips will usually blend with a water brush. because I was watching a video today where they were attempting to do, I say attempting, to do blending with watercolour brush pens, and it just wasn't working. It's because they're trying to blend brush with brush pen and it won't work. Not going to name names, but when you see the video you'll know who I mean. And it's just a case of using the right tools to do the right thing. So water brushes are good for when you just need nice clean water to blend. Just going to put in a little bit more of that dark colour right up in this top section. And I'm going to blend it right out. Okay. And I'm just going to go a bit more, I think, just in there. Just so it looks a bit more obvious that that can be kind of receding. More of a dark colour, and drop it right into this bottom section. Any questions?
Not at the moment.
Okay. If you do have any, I don't mind.
Alright. So when this dries, will that foiling show through a bit better, or?
Yeah. Yeah. So what I would do in a minute is just give it a quick kind of blot, but you don't want to blot it too much when your paint's still wet, otherwise you could lift off a lot of what you painted. So all I'm using is a dry bamboo sheet. And I'll just keep changing which bit I'm using so I don't smudge. Just clean off that foil. There you go. Hopefully you can see that. I can see it, but you never know with the camera. Okay, so I've gone in with the pale green colour and I'm just going to come back in.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Go on.
When it's still wet, could you put some embossing powder or some glitter on the edges just to give it some sparkle?
When it's still wet, it will hold on to any embossing powder, so if you want to do like an enamel over the top, it would do. Just be aware that you want to make sure that your heat gun is really hot before it goes anywhere near. Otherwise it will dry off the water and the embossing powder will go everywhere. Okay, so definitely preheat your heat gun there. I'm going to come down here too.
If you wanted to add some sparkle, you could use things like Quinkastella though, couldn't you, afterwards?
Oh yeah, Quinkastella or the sparkle pens.
Sparkle, yeah, something that will give it that edge, just drawing around the outside edge of it.
Yeah, you can actually watercolour with your sparkle pens as well. So when I was doing, I'm trying to think, when I was doing the butterflies, wasn't it? I did one that was watercoloured with the sparkle pens rather than watercolour and a traditional brush pen. So if him waves that one under the camera in a minute, when he's finished having a drink, he's on a quick lesson. So I'm just going to put another little leaf just there, because these things are better in threes.
That's when you embossed, was it that one or was it
It was that one that you got there. Yeah. Because if you look at the side of it, it's sparkles. So.
Let me just count the view so I can see what it looks like on the.
Okay, so I'm just going to drag in another couple of leaves this way too.
And that one, if you can see the sparkle on it. This one that he was talking about was the other one. Yeah, so basically you can use a clear sparkle and Castella in place of water brush. So whenever you would blend with a water brush, you can blend with a sparkle pen. Just cool. Rule of thirds long.
Yep, well, everything in nature has an odd number. So, just going to put in another little leaf just there. And if you wanted to, you could put something else that matches that up there, but because we've got this kind of triangle effect going on, I think I'm going to leave it there and maybe just put a nice 3D sentiment over the top. So you've kind of seen 3 different ways that you can use watercolour to create a card, so you don't have to buy tons of stamps. And then I'm going to do a stamped panel off stream, I think, and I'll put them all together tomorrow, or maybe I'll stream it in the morning. Should I do a watercolour stream in the morning? That'd be quite chilling.
Quite relaxing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll do that. So I'll do the last panel tomorrow morning at 11.
Yeah. Tracy, it's hard to see the sparkle on the camera on that one. It is hard to make it catch on the light.
Yeah. Do you want to try again?
Do you want to try from your side? 'Cause it
I'll
could be
waggle
easy.
it. You put it on the...
I'll put it on the big screen.
Okay. It's really subtle shimmer though. So if we do it on the butterflies, the kind of
not too close.
Place to look.
It's not picking it up on there. You can just see it glimmer back a bit. No, you can't really see it. It's not picking it up.
Oh, come on.
No, you were better the other way.
It's really... Hang on, let's try that one because I think that one sparkles more. So hopefully you can see it if I tilt it nice and slowly, if you're just looking at the centre of that butterfly, because that's got
there we go.
Purple, it's got pink, and it's got the clear sparkle as well.
Yeah, you can just do it. You have to catch the light just right on it, but it is.
Yeah, in real life it's really, really, really sparkly, that section.
Yeah.
So, there we go. And while we've been passing away, we can now go back and just polish up our foil again. There we go. And hopefully you can see that one too. Oh, there we go.
Right in the centre, yep. Right in the centre, yep.
Yep.
Yeah, nice chilled out afternoon session.
So we're going to be doing chilled again tomorrow morning, just to finish off that last panel, and then we'll do some paper piecing in the afternoon.
Alright. Hopefully have a safe and happy afternoon, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow morning.
And hopefully the storms will stay away so I can catch up a little bit on some work.
With a bit of a... So we'll see you all tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock. And so Natalie will finish off. So put that down because you're not going to fiddle now.
No, I'm going to be good and just clean my brushes.
Okay. And we'll look forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Don't forget you have Barbara at 10 o'clock in the morning doing some colouring this week. And then we're back at 11. And we've got Pete at 12:30. More definitive people I know. That's alright, you're more than welcome, Linda. Yes, night Tracy, get yourself some sleep.
Yep, hopefully you're nice and chilled with bedtime now.
Yeah. And we'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.